Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ms. McGuire online class. And today we're covering introduction to the human body. And I will record 2 videos. So I will divide this chapter into 2 parts. So those videos are not very long. Right? So let's go ahead and begin. Oops, sorry. So what is anatomy and what is physiology? So anatomy studies structure and physiology studies functions. We have different branches of anatomy as well as different branches of physiology. So for example, we have gross anatomy. When you study structures and organs that you can see with your naked eye. Like you can study the whole structure of liver, or you can study the structure of brain. Microscopic anatomy, you can guess, uses microscopes, so you will be able to see smaller structures such as tissues or cells. Regional anatomy study your body by regions. So you can, for example, specifically study cephalic region, just the head, and it will include bones and muscles of the head and brain and special organs that located in the cephalic region, like your eyes, your ear, right? Or you can study upper limb, and it will include, again, bones, muscles of your arm and forearm, and blood vessels, nerves, right? So on. Systemic anatomy studies your body by systems. So instead of specifically concentrate on cephalic region, you might study like skeletal system. So you will study all the bones of the arm and leg and skull and so on. Or you can study cardiovascular system, right, including hearts and blood vessels. Right, but the point is you study structures, you study tissues, cells, right? And you learning the names, you learning the principle of organization. But when you start talking about functions, that's job of physiology. And physiology is really biochemistry and biophysics. So all these chemical and physical processes that happens inside individual cells and as a result happen within your entire organ, right? That's what physiology will study and explain. And the big part of physiology is homeostasis. And we will talk about it more in our following slides. Now, anatomy and physiology are inseparable. Function always reflects structure. And what structure can do depends on its specific form. Right, and this is known as a principle of complementarity of structure and function. On this diagram here, you can see example of different structures of your body cells. For example, you can see neuron. A neuron, if you notice, has a long process, that's axon. And if you're looking at this structure, you ask yourself, so why do I need a cell that has so long processes? Well, that would be good for sending a message, right? It's like a freeway or highway, sending a message, for example, from your brain to your muscles. Or if you see like sperm cell, very small body of a cell, right, where you have a nucleus and pretty much not any other organelles, right? So very few organelles, but you have nucleus, so you carry genetic information. And then you have this large flagellum, and this middle part includes mitochondria. So because you have the flagellum is for movement, so the function is to move, right, from male reproductive system towards female reproductive system and carries this genetic information. right? Or your fat cells, or let's say macrophages. So their structure reflect their function, right? That's what the principle of complementarity is. Okay, now necessary life function includes organization, movement, responsiveness, metabolism, reproduction, growth, and development. So it means for you to stay alive, right, your whole body need to maintain these functions, right? Like we will look at these functions individually and briefly describe them. Now, what does it mean, organization? Your body is made of cells, trillions of cells. And actually in biology, we have what we call cell theory. And cell theory states that all life on Earth is made of cells. And when we say all life, we mean animals, plants, fungi, protists. So anything that we consider to be living organism is made of cells. And cell is functional and structural unit of life. So the unit of your life is not protein, it's not sugar, not DNA. The structural and functional unit of your body is a cell. And another principle of cell theory states that all cells come from pre-existing cells. That means cells cannot just appear from nothing. Your cells cannot be just created from kind of like from scratch, from lipids, proteins, DNA. Your body is not capable of putting this stuff together, like put phospholipids together and make cell membrane, or put nucleotides together and make DNA. Your body doesn't do it. All the cells of your body comes from pre-existing cells. That means those pre-existing cells must divide and multiply and reproduce, right, to make more cells of your body. Right, so and even here, we start with chemical level of organization. So we have atoms, we have molecules, right? Then organelles. And when we get to this point, organelles made your cell, right? That's your structural unit of life. So here, for example, it's a muscle cell, smooth muscle cells. Then cells make tissues. And different tissues make organs. Organs make organ systems, and all these organ systems make an entire organism, right? So that's why we have those level of organization from atoms to organism, right? And in the biology, we specifically concentrate from a cell, right, to an entire organism. We also have multiple compartments, and it can be smaller compartments like organelles inside a cell, or it can be larger compartments in your body like cavities, let's say thoracic cavity where you have your organ, or abdominal cavities. Right, so the I'll go back for a second. So function necessary for life organization tells you you're made of cells, right? And cells make tissues, tissue make organs, organ makes organ systems, and organ system make organism. Okay, now what you made of rather than cell, of course you're made of cells, but your cells and all your extracellular matrix is made of organic molecules and some inorganic molecules. So the average body of teenage male, it tells here like 131 pounds, is made of mostly proteins, 17%, 14% fat. And when we're talking about fat, it doesn't, doesn't necessarily need that extra fat that give us, those extra pounds, but this is necessary molecules that cushion and protects your internal organs. So we have visceral fat, we have cutaneous, subcutaneous fat, right? So mostly protein, 14% fat, very little carbs, 1.5% only, and 6% minerals like calcium, sodium, potassium, salts, and more than 60% is water. And the older we get, the less water we have in our body, right? So this percentage will go a little bit down when we get older, right? So we're made of proteins again, and all this organic, like fat, carbohydrates, but also minerals, organic molecules, inorganic molecules, but more than 60% is water. And you have about 5 liters of blood. That blood is also 65% plasma, and 90% of plasma is water. Okay, another function, so I'll go back again over here. So we still cover organization, we didn't get to movement and responsiveness, but we get to metabolism first. So what is metabolism? It's defined as a sum total of all chemical reactions that occur in the body. When I ask students in a classroom what metabolism is, many of them think about digestion. So they kind of assume that digestion is our metabolism, maybe because very often you hear people say, I have fast metabolism, I have slow metabolism, and mostly they're referring to digestion, but metabolism is way more than just digestion. Digestion is a part of your metabolism, but metabolism is all chemical reaction in your body. So any chemical reactions that happens, that's a part of metabolism. And metabolism is divided into 2 parts, catabolism and anabolism. So catabolism is a set of metabolic pathways that breaks down molecules into smaller units that are either oxidized to release energy or used in other anabolic reactions. So catabolism, you break large molecules into smaller molecules. And anabolism is the set of metabolic pathways that construct molecules from smaller units. This reaction requires energy, known also as endergonic reactions. So you can see over here, you break large molecule into smaller units and release energy, or you start with smaller units, you use energy to build larger molecules, right? But when you break or build something, that's require chemical reactions, right? So that's a part of metabolism. Now over here, we can see the differences and similarities between metabolism and digestion. So the blue part show your metabolism, and the like a gray part is digestion. So metabolism, by definition, is different from digestion. Metabolism is the sum of all chemical and physiological processes. Digestion is the sum of all chemical and mechanical actions occurring in the digestive system only. Metabolism involves chemical processes. Digestion involves both chemical and mechanical processes. And mechanical processes, for example, you chewing your food, or you have, or your stomach breaks. It has also part of mechanical digestion happen inside your stomach when you mix the chyme with digestive juices and so on. So digestion includes mechanical processes plus 2 chemical processes. Now, metabolism can be anabolism or catabolism. Digestion is always catabolism. All systems are incorporated with metabolic activities, and digestion takes place only at digestive system. And metabolism vital for all living beings, and digestion usually takes place only in animals. So you do not have digestion in most of the plants, right? Except of maybe some plants that digest some insects, right? But that's exceptions rather than rules. All right, but metabolism is the function of any living organism. Let's see, some reason kind of okay, so here next one, I'm not sure if I'm getting to next slide, just my computer is acting a little bit strange. Okay, another function is responsiveness and movement. And responsiveness is ability of organism to adjust. We have the whole range of responses when internal or external environment is changing. So what does it mean, your ability to adjust and respond? So for example, if somebody is throwing something towards your face, you're gonna cover your face, right? That's your response. Or you can maybe jump away, right? So that's your whole body responding to some external stimulus, right? Like a ball approaching your face. But also you can respond and adjust to changes within your internal environment. For example, if you eat cake and your glucose level in your blood goes up, right? Then you adjust, you secrete more insulin, you take this extra sugar into your liver cells, into your muscle cells, so you return back to normal glucose level, right? That's another type of adjustment. Or you can adjust to changes of external temperature. For example, temperature goes up and you start sweating to keep your body temperature constant. That's your ability to adjust. Movement, also we have the whole range of movement. Your entire body can move, like the joints of your body, moving your bones, moving your body. But there is movement within your organs. For example, your blood is moving through your blood vessels, your chyme, it's food that you're digesting, moving through your GI tract. And there are lots of movement in your cells, right? So for example, calcium moves inside the cell, like some hormones moving outside of the cells. Right, so the sodium, potassium moves across your cell membrane. So there is a lot of movement within your cells as well. So that's another function of a living organism. Next, we have development, growth, and reproduction. Now, development includes the division of the cells, right? Remember, all cells come from pre-existing cells. We all started as one single cell, zygote, and then the cell divides. So it's shown over here. You divide from one cell, you have two cells. To do it, you need to replicate DNA. So you need to go through the whole process of DNA replication and cell division. But plus, we have differentiation. And that means if we all started with one cell, and then some cells became your neurons, and some cells became your epithelial cells, or like your liver cells, for example, or your epithelial cells of your skin, if you have the same DNA, because everything comes from the first cell, so DNA is the same, but now why those cells, neuron and epithelial cell, look so different? They have different structure and they have different function. And you know, structure and function is recorded within your DNA. So if DNA is the same, how structure and function can be so different? This is what differentiation is. Actually, some genes within your DNA are not expressed. Right, so for example, the genes that allow your epithelial cells, for example, secrete your sweat, right? They are on in epithelial cells, but they turned off. They're not expressed in neurons, right? So cells differentiate. They became different cells during our embryonic development. You also grow, you know it, because when you have a baby is small, and then you get bigger, and you able to reproduce. And when we talk about reproduction, it's not only making new offsprings, it's also reproduction of your cells. If you cut yourself, you don't walk around with this wound forever, right? Those epithelial cells, adjacent cells, they will reproduce and they will replace cells that are damaged, right? So I'm gonna, because I cannot really exit my full screen, so I'm gonna stop this video for a minute and then I will resume it. Okay, so I stopped the recording and I resume it. So hopefully now I will be able to, like go back to some slides, because I wasn't able to do it before. So what we cover so far, we cover the life functions that necessary for keeping you alive: organization, movement, responsiveness, metabolism, reproduction, growth, and development. Right, so next we will talk about survival needs. Now, to keep all this function, right, for you to move, for you to grow, for you to develop, to respond to different stimulus, right, you need nutrients, oxygen, water, normal body temperature, and appropriate atmospheric pressure. So we all know that we need oxygen, we all know that we need nutrients and water, and many of us are aware of temperature, and few of us know that we must have appropriate atmospheric pressure, right? And this is necessary for us to be able to breathe, for air to move in and out of our lungs, and also, for all our functions pretty much, right? But very important for respiratory system. So oxygen, why do we need oxygen? And if you tell me I need oxygen to live, it's not the answer. We need to know a little bit more about oxygen. Just we need oxygen to live. We need nutrients to live. We need temperature, normal temperature to live. But actually, like, why? What exactly oxygen does for you that allow you to stay alive? So oxygen needed for synthesis of the molecule called ATP, and it's adenosine triphosphate, and this is energy molecule. So without oxygen, your body cannot synthesize enough ATP to keep you alive. So the reason you breathe every second of your life, every couple seconds of your life, you inhale and exhale, right? So because oxygen needed to make energy in the form of ATP. Nutrients. First of all, nutrients involve macronutrients, micronutrients, and water. So macronutrients that you need in a small amount, like you need proteins, you need carbs, you need fat. And micronutrients, you might need some vitamins, you might need some minerals like calcium in your diet, right? So that's type of nutrients that we needed. And nutrients provide material for growth of cells and tissue. All right. So as they provide you energy and they provide you materials for repair of cells and tissues. That's why we need nutrients and oxygen for energy and for material to build your body and to replace cells of your body that are damaging, that are not functioning properly anymore, right? You also need appropriate temperature and pressure. So the normal body temperature is 37 degrees of Celsius or 98.6 Fahrenheit. Like what happened if your body temperature go below or above? So of course you stay in a pretty narrow range. Your body is not always 37. It's fluctuate a little bit up and down, but when you at this optimal temperature, then all your body parts function the best, right? And not only your organs, it's also your molecules, your cells, your molecules. For example, your enzymes. Enzymes are proteins. So human enzymes, and enzymes, you have digestive enzymes or you have hormones that are also proteins and chemicals, some of the hormones. And plus you have not only digestive enzymes, you have enzymes that catalyze every single chemical reaction in your body, right? All reaction in your body pretty much requires specific enzyme to proceed and to happen quick enough, right? And because enzymes are proteins, if a temperature is too low or too high, then enzymes stop functioning. For example, enzymes, they denature at high temperature. So the rate of chemical reaction falls rapidly. And denature means they just losing their shape, right? Because proteins, they have like three-dimensional, four-dimensional shape, or three-dimensional, but three-dimensional shape, but 4 levels of folding. So anyway, if temperature too high, enzymes lose their shape, they cannot function. When the heat energy very low, then you have less collision between enzyme and substrate, and reactions are very slow, and they can get to the point when they slow to the degree that you cannot sustain functions, life functions anymore, right? And somebody can die if the body temperature goes too low. Right now, it's asking, how does your body respond if you are, if your body temperature goes up or down? That will be covered in the next slides. Pressure is needed for your ability to breathe and to dissolve gases in your plasma of your blood, right? So we also need appropriate atmospheric pressure. And this is where we at. So what actually happened if your temperature of your body goes too much above 37 degrees or too low, below, too much below 37 degrees. And then you're out of homeostasis, right? So what is homeostasis? Is the maintenance of relatively stable internal conditions despite continuous changes in environment. It's a dynamic state of equilibrium, always readjusting as needed and maintained by contribution of all organ systems. So for you to keep your constant body temperature, despite the changes of external environment, require your body systems, many of your body systems, to keep this homeostasis, right? And what is a disease? Disease is when your body is out of homeostasis. Something is going wrong, your body cannot keep these normal parameters, and that's what we call a disease. So homeostatic control of variables involves 3 components: receptor, control center, and effector. So we already know that homeostasis is balance in your body. So it's shown here the scale and your body is balanced. Now, if stimulus is applied, the stimulus produces change in a variable. And stimulus is like any change inside or outside of your body, right? So the stimulus can be hot temperature outside, or a stimulus can be too much sugar in your blood, or your blood pressure goes up. That's a stimulus. And it produces change in the variables. So like say stimulus is a temperature and it changes your internal body temperature. So external body temperature is a stimulus, change in your core body temperature, and you out of balance. But the first you need to sense this change, and that's why you have receptor that detect this change. So for temperature, and we will talk about it when we cover next slide, but you will have receptors through your skin, right? And those receptors will detect that the temperature outside is too high, right? Now those receptors gonna send this message about change in the temperature to your control center. And this pathway from receptor to control center is called afferent pathway. So A, kind of like you go, from periphery away towards your control center. So that's going to be your input. Information sent along afferent pathway to control center. Now, what your control center, it can be your nervous system, right? It can be your spinal cord, can be your brain, or it can be your endocrine system. It can be your pancreas, for example, right? So that is something where you will have like you will have ability to compare this input with your normal parameter, right? So you will have your like part of your brain, for example, right, that keeps this parameter that your body temperature have to be 37 degrees of Celsius. So when you receive the signal, you compare, oh, okay, now the temperature goes up. It's way above, it's above 37 or it's below 37, right? So it doesn't matter. It can be, temperature can go up or down. It's still stimulus that produces, change. And this stimulus need to be analyzed by your control center. Now your control center will send output. So information sent along now efferent pathway to the effector. And effector can be, your sweat glands or your blood vessels. And effector will produce response. It feeds back to reduce the effect of stimulus and returns variable to homeostatic level. Right, so this is homeostatic arch, starting with the stimulus, receptor, afferent pathway, control center, efferent pathway, and effector. And effector, pretty much whatever action of the effector is, it allows your body to return back to your balance, to your homeostasis. So now we will look at a specific example, right, that hopefully give you even more understanding. When we talk about these responses to a stimulus, we can have negative feedback and we can have actually positive feedback as well. So we're going to start with negative feedback. Responses reduces or shuts off original stimulus. An example includes regulation of body temperature, that is your nervous mechanism, or regulation of blood glucose level by insulin. This is endocrine system mechanism. So in this diagram, we see the nervous system mechanism, regulation of body temperature. So again, you're on a balance, and then you receive the stimulus, for example, heat. So body temperature rises, right? You are out of balance, imbalance. So you will have receptors in your skin that gonna send message through your neurons to your control center, and it will be thermoregulatory center in your brain. Now, this control center analyze the stimulus. It's compare input with a set point. Okay, well, now it's above my set point. Your brain send command through the efferent pathway to your effectors. And for this example, I just shown your sweat glands, but we have way more effectors that can deal with your high body temperature. But one of the effectors are sweat glands. So sweat glands are now activated and they start producing sweat. Evaporation of sweat lower your body temperature. Body temperature falls and stimulus end, right? So the stimulus, your body temperature goes up, and now body temperature falls, you're back to balance, right? But the stimulus can be cold. Now, when body temperature falls, you also out of balance. You have, again, your receptors that will temperature sensitive cells in skin and brain. They send the message through efferent pathway to your control center, thermoregulatory center in the brain. Control center analyzes, detect that, well, this input is below my checkpoint, and send message to the effectors through the efferent pathway. For example, here, your skeletal muscles, and you start shivering. Your shivering begins, and when you shiver, you produce lots of heat and body temperature rises. Stimulus ends. You're back to balance. So negative feedback shuts off original stimulus or reduces it. And this happened pretty much on, it might happen through one day several times, right? Temperature goes up, temperature goes down. That's why homeostasis, as it says over here, it's a dynamic state of equilibrium. So pretty much your body constantly working. It's not just giving to you. Homeostasis is not giving to you like, okay, here, everything is normal. No, you constantly fighting for this balance in your body. Positive feedback. Responses changes or exaggerate. Response enhances or exaggerates the original stimulus. So, you receive the stimulus, but instead of shutting it off, you actually make it even stronger, right? You have a stronger reaction. Now, what would be example? Example would be enhancement of labor, contraction by oxytocin, platelet plaque formation and blood clotting, lactation, and ovulation. So over here, we're looking at a labor, contraction. So when female are in labor, the baby pushes on the cervix, and this is a stimulus, right? This pressure push to the cervix. And what it causes your brain to secrete oxytocin. In your brain, you have a gland, pituitary gland, and when the stimulus is received by efferent pathway, pituitary gland secrete oxytocin. Oxytocin is released in the bloodstream. It's carried to the uterus, and uterus stimulate uterine, oxytocin stimulates uterine contraction, right? So contraction even gets stronger. So remember, you start the contraction, you have this pressure on the cervix, but now instead of reducing it, you make this pressure even stronger. So you have more pressure, more contraction. Head of the baby pushes even stronger against cervix. It's carried to your brain, and brain release more oxytocin. And this cycle of enhancement and exaggeration continues until stimulus is reduced. Baby is born, right? Pretty similar with another examples over here, right? Okay, so let's just sum up kind of very quickly what we covered so far. So we talk about necessary life functions over here, right? We talk about survival needs, like nutrients, oxygen, water, temperature, atmospheric pressure. And then we said that to keep your body alive, all your organs need to work in a harmony to maintain homeostasis. So it's a relatively stable internal environment. And to maintain this homeostasis, you have the whole mechanism that includes receptor, control center, and effector. And homeostasis is maintained by negative feedback, because what negative feedback does, it's return your body back to the balance. However, we look at another positive feedback that is not a part of homeostasis. It actually takes your body either further away from homeostasis, but you depend on it in a very critical parts of your life as well, when you labor or when you cut yourself or you're bleeding, right? Lactation, ovulation. Positive feedback exaggerate and enhances original stimulus. So it's not taking your body back to the balance. Your body actually will return to this balance only when stimulus is removed. Okay, now we very quickly we'll talk about body systems. Now your cells make tissues, and tissue makes organs, and organs make body systems. Organ system is a group of organs that work together to perform one or more functions. And over here you can see example of interactions among body organ systems. And again, to keep you alive, to keep this homeostasis. So you can see that we have skin. It's a part of integumentary system, protects the body as a whole from the external environment. Then you have your digestive system, so food goes in, and then your food is broken into nutrients. Nutrients are absorbed into bloodstream, and food residues are removed in the form of feces. You also have your respiratory system that delivers oxygen to your blood and removes carbon dioxide from your blood. Now, your cardiovascular system distributes this oxygen and nutrients. Nutrients received from digestive system, oxygen received from respiratory system. It's delivered them to every cell of your body. Right? It can be cell of your brain, cell of your liver, it can be your muscles. And then it's pick up waste product from your cells and deliver it back, takes it back to your lungs so you can exhale carbon dioxide. Also nitrogenous waste and excess ions, like uric acid, like urine, like sodium, extra water. This will be delivered to your kidney, and kidneys remove those waste products and excess water and ions from your body through the urine. All right, so you can imagine if any of this body system shuts down or if it doesn't work properly, the whole body is affected, right? Now, how many body systems and what body systems we have? So that's a part of the last part of this lecture, and then we will make a break. So the first system is integumentary system. I mean, I don't want to assign numbers. That's the first system we're talking about. Every system is extremely important for homeostasis. You don't have important system, less important, I believe. That's all that keep you alive. But the first system that we're discussing is integumentary system, forms the external body covering and protects deeper tissues from injury, synthesize vitamin D, and houses cutaneous receptors, receptors for pain, pressure, vibration, temperature. and also sweat and oil glands. Skeletal system protects and supports body organs, provide framework for muscles used to cause movement. Blood cells are formed within bones, and bones store minerals. Muscular system allows manipulation of the environment, locomotion, facial expression, maintain posture, and produces heat. Nervous system, and also, by the way, when we cover it, it shows you the major organs like integumentary skin and nails, joints, bones, muscles, right? Nervous system, again, just the major organs, brain, spinal cord, nerves. As the fast-acting control system of the body, it responds to internal and external changes by activating appropriate muscles and glands. Endocrine system, and you can see major endocrine glands like pituitary gland, thyroid gland, pancreas, even ovaries and testes. Those glands secrete hormones that regulate processes such as growth, reproduction, nutrient use, or metabolism by body cells. Cardiovascular system, heart, blood vessels. Blood vessels transport blood, which carry oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, waste product, and the heart pumps blood. Lymphatic system or immune system. So that's actually one system. In anatomy, we usually call it lymphatic. In physiology, we usually call it immune. And spleen is the largest organ of lymphatic system. And we have thymus, we have lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes. Picks up fluid leaks from blood vessels and returns it to blood, disposes of debris in the lymphatic stream, houses white blood cells, lymphocytes involved in immunity. The immune response mounts the attack against foreign substances within the body. Respiratory system, when we have like nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, lungs, bronchi, bronchioles, keeps blood constantly supplied with oxygen and removes carbon dioxide. The gases exchange occurs through the walls of the air sacs called alveoli of the lungs. Digestive system, oral cavity, esophagus, liver, stomach, small, large intestine, breaks down food into absorbable units that enter the blood for distribution to body cells. Indigestible foodstuffs are eliminated as feces. Urinary system, kidney, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra, eliminates nitrogenous waste from the body, regulates water, electrolytes, acid-base balance of the blood. And reproductive systems, male reproductive and female reproductive systems. A male system includes glands, accessory glands, prostate gland, for example, like seminal vesicles, bulbourethral glands, penis, testes, scrotum. Overall function is production of offspring. Testes produce sperm and male sex hormones, and male ducts and glands aid in delivery of sperm to the female reproductive tract. Ovaries produce eggs and female sex hormones. The remaining female structures serve as site of fertilization and development of the fetus. Mammary glands of female breast produce milk to nourish the newborn. Right, and over here, that pretty much the same paragraph, but we have ovaries, we have uterine tubes, uterus, vagina, mammary glands. That's a female reproductive system. So total 11 body systems. So let's go ahead and count and see if I'm right or wrong. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yeah, 11 body systems. Right, and that's it for the first part of the introductory lecture. I will record the second video where we will cover the rest of the material, right? So thank you for watching, and I hope it was helpful.